All right, good afternoon. Welcome back to Voices of Courage Asia, and this is our series on Standing Tall, Overcoming All by Jucelyn Ong, our
Hi, good
upcoming author.
afternoon.
Right. Yes, Jucelyn, how have you been since the last we met?
Good. I know it's the COVID and all, and everybody being stressed, but I think, if we look at the positive side of things, we can always find a silver lining in clouds, right? Even dark
Right.
clouds.
Yeah.
Mm,
So I mean a word of encouragement to our audience out there, we understand that, we are back into kind of a semi lockdown.
yeah,
Yeah, most of I mean a lot of children are going to have the home based learning, right?
that's
So
right.
yours also, I
Tomorrow,
heard having exams, right?
yeah, no. My little one, the youngest, I
Mm.
think he doesn't have exam, or he finished his last week. So, yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's nice. So
that's right.
yeah, so this coming period, right? What you're going to have to keep him occupied, or the school has curriculum to keep him
Oh
occupied?
yeah, they have homework and worksheets, so he will be occupied. But anyway, like I
That's good.
said, it's I think I've always believed that for children, it's not just all about academics. Really,
Mm,
yeah, allow them. I mean, my memories of childhood is always very fond memories
mm-hmm.
of the playtimes, the friendships that I made. Right, so it's not all about studies. Yeah,
Yeah, I think we want to have a more holistic lifestyle, right? Not just always
totally agree.
academics.
That's right.
Right. So today, what
Hmm.
are you going to share with us? What else are you going to share with us from your book?
Right. So today, I'm going to be talking about boundaries,
Mm,
setting of boundaries, and the importance of setting boundaries.
right. Okay. So, specifically in the area of
Okay,
the
it can
boundaries,
be
in the areas of.
in the boundaries of relationships. Basically,
Mm,
it's very broad. Boundaries can be setting boundaries even in your workplace. It's not just with
mm,
your romantic partner, with your husband, or with your boyfriend, girlfriends. It
mm,
extends even to your co-workers and all, because it all boils down to
mm.
a your ability to know and be assertive in certain areas. When I say assertive, I don't mean the demanding kind of
Yeah,
assertiveness,
a- assertive
Yes,
but not aggressive.
that's right. That's right.
Right.
So, you know,
Okay.
um, even countries, so basically boundaries, definition of boundaries, right? Basically,
Mm,
it just means a line that marks the limits of an area in simple terms, right? If you
mm-hmm.
check out a dictionary, right? A boundary just means a line that marks the dividing limits
Mm,
of an area. So even
right.
countries have boundaries, right? We have a boundary with our
Right.
closest neighbor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So for me,
Why is it important to have boundaries?
okay, I think if
Why
there's
are we
no
talking about
boundaries,
boundaries?
right? Why are we talking about boundaries? Because I think it's
Mm,
important to know where one ends and another begins. Like, can
mm,
you imagine if the world has or countries have got no boundaries?
mm,
It will be chaos, isn't it? You wouldn't know where does my stand, where does it extend to?
right.
And and it's basically, it serves why it's important is because boundary serves as guidelines or rules that tell others also how we want to be treated, what's okay or not okay with us.
Mm,
And I struggled a lot with that, and I believe some of the listeners might also struggle with that, because I'm not sure about you, but I used to feel very guilty about
mm-hmm.
setting boundaries.
Why is that? Yeah.
Yeah, if there's any listener out there who also share that same sentiment, you could type it in the chat, or why you feel, yeah. Because I feel guilty because my perception of what boundaries is seemed to be, at that time, for
Mm,
years, telling people what I want. It's like asserting my needs and my wants. And I feel
mm-hmm.
bad about it. I actually feel like I'm placing a kind of demand on somebody. I felt
That's
that.
interesting. Yeah, I mean that's an interesting point that we could actually go deeper on
Mm,
that. But yeah, you go
sure.
on, go on.
Right. So I struggled with that. And I think some people that I've spoken to, they have actually told me that they actually, one, some of us don't know how to set boundaries. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have boundaries,
Right.
whether it's relationship or anything else, whether it's with co-workers. And sometimes I find it extends to all areas. Yeah,
Mm,
for me, I I found it very difficult to set boundaries or even form boundaries, and it extends not just in my relationships, my marriage then, and also
mm,
when it came to work. It was almost permeating through every other area of my life because I think fundamentally I didn't grasp the idea of why it's necessary to have boundaries.
mm.
Yeah. So I
Yep.
think if someone doesn't have boundaries, it
Yep.
also should trigger a alarm
Mm-hmm.
because it means that your self identity is either so low or non-existent, or basically you are so enmeshed into someone else's life. That's why there's no
Mm-hmm.
boundaries, right? It's all
Mm.
merged.
Right. So,
Yes.
I mean, can you share with us some examples of
Hmm.
like how does it look like when you don't have any boundaries at all? How does it
Hmm.
how's that life like, in the area of your personal relationship or in the area of your profession when there's no
Right.
boundary at all? How does that look
Okay.
like? Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we talk about professions because some of our
Okay.
listeners might be working.
Mhm.
You would find yourself saying yes a lot
Mm.
to maybe assignments that belongs to someone else. But because
Mhm.
they didn't fulfill it due to whatever reasons, they come to you and go, "Hey, do you think you can help me?
Right.
I'm having so and so issues at home. It's affecting me, and da da da." And because you don't have boundaries, you take it upon yourself to then
Mhm.
help someone do his or her work. So you
Right.
end up taking on someone else's responsibilities.
Right.
So
And that
so you
explain Yeah, so that explain I can already visualize how the pile of the workload, keep increasing, and you will be
that's
busy
right.
doing
That's
other
right.
people's work and ignoring your own work. Right.
That's
Is that where
right.
this is going? Yeah.
Yes, yes. So yes, so can you imagine what happens when you keep doing that? You're going to be exhausted mentally,
Mm,
physically, and more
right.
importantly, over time, resentment will build up.
Mm,
You are
yeah.
also you start resenting that person, and interestingly enough, you resent yourself in the process.
Mm.
I did
And in
because
and all that
hmm,
overwhelm that you feel burnout and you feel so
that's
exhausted,
right.
right? Physically,
Yes,
not just mentally,
yes,
physically as well. Yeah.
right. But
Okay. And that resentment
emotionally,
is very true also. Yeah.
that's right. And interestingly, right, why I said resentment with self is
Mm,
because when I didn't know what was boundary and I was putting up with things that was maybe not right, I
mm-hmm,
resented myself for being weak. I
mm,
resented myself for why didn't I stand up for myself?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the resentment, anger, and therefore it makes you become very unhealthy in the
Right.
process. Then
Because
you
of
are
all
stuck
that
in this rut.
negative emotion and negative
That's
energy that
right.
you're suppressing. Right.
That's
Okay.
right. So that comes to work. So you could see someone with no boundaries, right? Imagine
Mm,
whatever your boss tells you, or when your boss texts you at I don't know 1 a.m. I've heard of stories like that,
mm,
and you actually answer that text, and then you're like, oh, but how could he disturb my sleep? But yet you you didn't stand up and set your boundaries. So
right.
so you didn't tell your boss what's okay and what's not okay. These are my
Mm,
boundaries. You see,
yeah.
setting boundaries doesn't mean you bang tables and behave like you said. Yeah, yeah. We need to make that very, very clear. It doesn't
Yeah,
mean that.
just being firm. Yeah,
It
and
just
respect.
means being
Right.
firm. That's right.
Yeah, it's
So
showing respect with to each other as well. Yeah.
that's right. And
Mm.
in relationships, someone with no boundaries would look like someone who listens to everything maybe your partner tells you, whether it goes against your morals or not, you
Mm.
will just follow.
Okay.
You might have your set of for those who are married, maybe you have your set of raise your own ideas about how you want to raise your child, for example.
Okay, so now
And
we bring it
then
to the home front, right?
the home
In
front,
the
that's the
area
work
of
one, someone
parenting.
with no bound.
Okay. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So you might have your own views, but
Mm.
because you are always allowing somebody to encroach on your territory and feeding you with the input, and you might have valuable opinions and all, but you don't express it,
Mm.
right? Or if you're a new mom with a child, a new baby, it is okay to say that, to express your need, to say that, hey, I need you to be home a little bit more during this period because,
Mm.
maybe emotionally I need you, or I need you to help with the baby. I don't think I appreciate you being out until, let's say, with your buddies until 12 a.m. or something during this period. Do you think you can be home with me? Things like that,
Yeah.
meaning setting what uh, is your expectation. Yeah. So
Mm.
setting boundaries can be in two ways, I see. One
Mm.
could be in the form of requesting for somebody to change their behavior.
Mm.
For
Okay.
example,
To make
if you have,
adjustments, right? Like I think
yes, like,
I like to go back to your example about
hmm,
the
hmm,
new mom. And yeah, I
yes,
think taking a step back also to ensure that the couples actually talk about it even before
that's right.
they plan for a baby. It can be a conversation about the different parenting styles, what you think about the like you say, the values, to make
Mm,
sure that both of them are aligned, in terms of their values, in terms of the parenting style that they want to adopt, you
that's
know
right.
yeah, some may go to the extent of, the good cop bad cop thing and all that, I don't know. Yeah, so as long as there is a conversation, and that's where you mentioned about the expectations, right? And it's not,
That's right.
so you're being proactive instead of reactive, being reacting to the situation, and then you
Yeah.
start blaming, and then you start having all that resentment, and the whole cycle just blew up
Mm.
into a disaster. Yeah.
You're right. In fact, relationship works best when both parties are clear about the expectations you have of each other. Now,
Mm,
on hindsight, I realize how important that is, because I think I've shared in my earlier episodes that I've always struggled with self-respect and self-love, and always this
mm,
fear of rejection and abandonment. So from the
mm,
very start, right, I did not set any boundaries. It's like a free for all. It's like a hall pass.
mm,
You want to treat me whichever way you just treat, I'll keep quiet as long as you don't abandon me. So some of us struggle with setting boundaries because if we look deep and we trace
yeah.
it back to why didn't you set the boundaries, it could be
Mm,
because of an inherent fear. You
right.
see?
Yeah.
Yes. So one would be, like I shared, is to request for someone to change their behavior. Like, for example, if your colleague always talks down to you or name call, it's as simple as, I don't appreciate that. Do you think you can speak in another way? That's one way of asserting your boundary in a
Mm,
firm, yet not aggressive way.
mm,
And the other way I see it would be boundaries can also be there. And why it's important is to protect yourself.
mm-hmm.
So, for
Yeah.
example, if the other party is not open minded and is not cooperating with you, continue to name call you, continue to abuse you, then what do? You don't just stand there, right? Yeah.
Right.
So you might choose to um, then set your boundary by saying, okay, I'm leaving this situation
Mm,
for a bit, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yesterday I came across a term called intentional disengagement.
Mm.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. But we are not advocating cold treatment here or passive aggressive by having this silent treatment. What it means is letting that person know that I don't think this is going anywhere. I
Mm,
don't like the way this whole thing is escalating. I'm gonna leave for
mm.
a while.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that to me will be like, if words is not effective, action speaks louder than words.
Yes. So boundaries are
Right.
there to protect both
Mm,
parties actually, because I feel that when we don't set boundaries, what happens is we are taking on responsibilities, consequences, and depriving the other person of learning to face up to those responsibilities and consequences for themselves.
mm,
By setting boundaries, we are saying, okay, this is what I am willing to be responsible for, which is my behavior.
mm.
But if you persist on insisting on your bad behavior, then the person needs to understand that there's consequences as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
Jocelyn, what are some of
Hmm.
your non-negotiables, in a relationship? Because
Okay.
yeah, I know there are different types of boundaries, and some are is of course all boundaries are set for the benefit of both parties, right?
Right.
Yeah, and still enjoying certain freedom and respect. Yeah, but share with us some of your non-negotiables, like you mentioned here. Mm,
Right. I think one of which has to be mutual respect.
mm,
Really, I think that is fundamentally one of the most essential and important, because if that is present in that relationship, it actually would affect everything else, even when you're having arguments and all that. If mutual respect has always been the cornerstone of your relationship,
mm,
then what I mean, it's like it will never get too far
mm,
if that is there. But if somebody doesn't even treat you with respect to begin
mm,
with, then I think there's nothing much to talk about, or that relationship wouldn't go very far. It's like
mm,
building a skyscraper. If your foundation is not right, no matter
mm.
how tall that building is, it is always shaky. And then when the earthquake comes and
Yeah.
life things happen,
Yep.
your building is gonna
It's
collapse
gonna
really
collapse.
fast.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I think the other
Yes.
non-negotiable for me is
Mm,
trust.
mm,
Yes, I think if I can't trust somebody, if I have to live with lies all the time, I think now that yeah, I don't care if you're gonna tell me to break up. Then I'll go, yeah, maybe I should have broken up. That's the exit. I think it's so basic that somebody that you are close with, okay, or
mm,
you are intending to build a relationship, must be
mhm.
somebody that you can trust. Somebody who is transparent and open enough for you. And that's where the vulnerability comes in from both parties.
Yeah. I think it's
Most
also
of important.
important. Yeah, I think it's also important to emphasize that nobody's perfect.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I think between couples or between
Mm,
relationships, sometimes is that we 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 tend not to share or be so transparent. Is
that's
again,
right.
like you said, the underlying of fear of certain inherent fear of abandonment or rejection again.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah. And but I think both parties need to understand nobody is perfect. We all make mistakes, right? But the key thing here is we are open enough to share, to be vulnerable with each other, like you mentioned. Yeah,
yes,
so that trust there is also includes the openness and to share the both vulnerability lah. Yeah.
correct, correct.
Mm,
I think you can't go deep. You can't go deep when there is a lot of masking.
mm,
Another non negotiable is I would not allow anybody
mm,
or be with anybody. I'm talking about it could be in relationship, it could be work or whatever. I'll keep my
mm,
distance. That somebody who creates a lot of fear in me.
mm.
I think for
Okay.
now, and yeah, after going through, I feel that fear is such a crippling effect on your life. It really is like some quicksand that just keeps sucking you down. So I won't allow anybody that that somehow creates fear in me. Fear
Mm,
could be um through their interaction with me, they are
Mm-hmm.
maybe very intimidating or manipulative, whether in their words or their actions.
Mm.
And
Or
therefore,
threatening.
yeah,
Uh,
or
yeah.
threatening using
Mm-hmm.
threat.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do use a lot of threats,
Mm-hmm.
and they sense your fear. I
Mm.
think when these are unhealthy individuals to begin with, I feel,
Right.
because if you're a healthy individual, I don't think you would
You
go
wouldn't do
around.
that, right? Yeah.
Yes, in fact, you'll
And
be
if you
building
love
people
your
up.
yeah, and if you love your partner, you won't instill fear in them. It's a form of trying to control that
Correct.
person as well.
Mm,
Yeah, if you look at it from another perspective. Mm.
that's right. So I've also read that, and it's very true. When a person is in total control of another person, then love can never grow deep
Mm.
because there's no freedom. The
Yeah.
other party will not be free or authentic to be himself or herself because of
Mm.
fear.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's why setting boundaries and knowing what are negotiables and non negotiables to you, for you, right at the start of a relationship is so fundamental and so crucial that I cannot emphasize
Mm.
enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's
Mm.
that's that's so important, and you are speaking from experience, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And so now
Mm.
I think about it, I said, hey, if I've known certain things or if I had been firm about setting my boundaries, yeah, and not feel guilty, that at that time I always think that, yeah, maybe if I don't have boundaries and I allow you to do anything you want, then you would love me
Mm.
more, isn't it? Because you see, I'm so nice to you. But the problem is, you end
Mm.
up, like I say, taking on too much sometimes,
Mm.
right? You take on too much, and then it results in a lot of other issues. I have known of instances where there are people who do not know how to say no to their family members and
Mm.
got themselves into financial debts.
Mm. Right.
And it's very sad. But to them, it's like, but these are family. How can I say no? I'm a mean person if I say no,
Mm.
But I said, you see, by you coming in to bill someone all the time, it's
Mm.
not helping the other person. You're
Right.
encouraging the bad behavior.
Right.
Like I
And
said, you're taking on the responsibility that actually belongs to someone else. Yeah.
mm, and like just now I mentioned, Jocelyn, she's
Mm,
everything that you're sharing here, you're sharing a lot of it. You're sharing from experience, right?
that's right.
Yeah. So I just want to show the audience your upcoming book, right? This
That's
is your
right.
upcoming book. That there are a lot more examples and
Mm.
that they'll share in the book. So yeah, how do they pre-order your book? That's
Yes,
actually
they can. There's a pre-order link.
mm,
That's right.
okay.
That's a pre-order link, and when the book is out, I will be in touch with you once you fill out the pre-order form and make payment. Then a confirmation email will be sent to you, and once it's
Right,
published, I'll be getting in touch with you. Mm,
right. Awesome. Okay,
right.
sorry to interrupt there, but your book is, especially also the cover is so beautiful. I just have to
Yeah,
show it.
thank you. Yeah, my designer Karen did a good job, huh? I love how that
Yes.
sunflower just stands out and stands tall. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah,
And
it's beautiful. Yeah.
see that hope, that strength. The stem, a sunflower stem is very strong and
Mm.
it's very tall, right? So
Yeah.
that kind of explains how I feel, we can stand back up after a
Yeah.
fall. But it's important not, yeah, I mean, acknowledge your feelings at that point, and then when you're ready to stand back up and ask for support if you need
Yeah.
to help you in that process. Yeah.
Yeah, talking about standing back up and standing tall, and relating to today's topic on setting boundaries. What are some
Hmm.
of the steps that you can
To
share with the
set
audience?
boundaries,
Yeah, in
right?
setting
Yeah, because we
boundaries.
talk so much about why it's important to set boundaries. So yeah,
Yeah.
I would like to share with you concrete steps of how to help
Yes,
you.
some practical steps. Like
That's right. So I'm going to break it down into 4 points, okay, or
okay.
four simple steps. The first
Okay.
of which is you must first define your boundaries,
Mm.
right? You need to first identify what is the boundary you want to set. So
Mm.
in the workplace, it could be telling your coworkers or all that, please don't message me after a certain time. That is my
Mm.
family time, for example. So you must
Mm.
first define and identify what is the boundaries.
Right.
Or if you
Okay.
are dating, it would be like, please don't, uh, yeah, please respect my time. One day of a week, I like it to be my me time, or for example. Or if you find
Mm.
that your partner is maybe rushing the relationship, to
Mm.
say that, "Oh, I'm not comfortable with it. I think we're going too fast. Do you think that we can, you know what I mean? You must first
Mm.
define it so that the
Right.
other party knows what is your boundary, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Step number one. The
Okay.
second step is to communicate it.
Okay. Communicate
Mm,
your boundaries.
yes,
Right.
correct. Because you might have all your boundaries in your head, but
Mm.
whatever is not translated or transmitted stays in your head, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Right.
So communicate, say what you need.
Mm.
Be clear about it, right? Be
Right.
clear about it. So communicate it. The third
Mm-hmm.
step is to stay simple, meaning
Again.
sometimes we stay simple. Don't over explain and justify.
Say simple.
Stay simple. Yeah.
Okay. Say
Keep,
simple.
keep it simple.
Or stay or
Sometimes for
say. Sorry, I couldn't
stay,
hear it. Stay.
stay, stay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Right.
for me, I find myself, even now, I try to catch myself when I always justify. Like, for example, if I tell you no, I'm getting better at it. In fact, lots of improvement now. I will justify why I cannot do this. As in,
Mm.
justify. But actually, think about it. We all have a right and a choice to say no to somebody
Mm.
else. We don't need to justify,
Yeah.
right? We just need to be polite and firm about it. Just don't be rude about it. But like I
Yeah.
said, if somebody makes you feel so bad or so fearful for saying no, then don't you think you need to go back to the beginning again? Why am I with that person? Why am I
Yeah.
with somebody who cannot respect me when I say no?
Mm. Yeah.
Hmm.
So we just want to also highlight, and reinforce this because everybody interprets information very
That's right.
differently
That's right.
at different seasons of your life, at different stages of your life. You're experiencing different things. So what
Hmm.
we are sharing here, I just want to highlight also that um, uh, in every relationship, they're bound to have conflicts, um,
Yes.
yes, and it's a process, and every time
Hmm.
there is a conflict or a conflict, it is important to have the conversations about it, right? Yeah, like
That's
you
right.
just like what Jocelyn shared here, if you already identify and have your own definition of those boundaries but you're not communicating it to your partner, how would they know? They can't mind read, right? They can't read your mind.
Yeah, we need
Yeah.
to be fair. We need to be fair to them, right? I know we
Yeah.
ladies sometimes will go, but you should know. Or what do you think? Then you won't be surprised. Then you're in for a really bad surprise. Then the guy will be like, seriously? I didn't know. Right? Why didn't you tell
You're
me?
like,
I
what
if
what
I
did I
had
do?
known, right?
Like the poor guy will
Yeah.
be going like, what did I do?
Yeah, we expect them
What
to be
happened? What
expert
just
mind
happened?
readers, right? Yeah.
Right.
So sometimes, for the sake of the relationship, I think a mature relationship is one where
Mm,
both parties are able to share their needs and their wants with the
mm,
other party without feeling judged. Anyway, that would be
mm,
a good yardstick of whether your relationship is healthy, really.
mm. And
Mm.
like the last point that you talk about, stay
Oh, yeah.
simple, right? The
The third
I
one,
mean the
there's
third
one
point.
more. Mm.
Um, yeah, sometimes those behaviors. If you choose to say no, the other
Yes.
party can understand, and accept it. So don't assume that we always have to justify and justify and justify and give lots and lots of reason for our no. Sometimes it's obvious enough that okay, no means no. Okay, this is not going to work. This is my boundary. Okay, and people can accept it. Yeah, not every situation we have to justify, from around the whole world justifying it. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. So I agree with you, but when you are so in tuned or so used to justifying, you realize that you justify yourself in even the simplest things. So Angela, I'll give
Mm,
you an example. Okay, I was out with a friend, maybe about 2 years back when I was still working on my self improvement and
mm,
learning how to say no and all. I actually asked that friend, sorry, but can I just run down to the basement to buy something for my kids? Can, but if cannot, it's okay. Then my friend looked at me and said, what, why not? And anyway, why did you have to ask that permission? Of course you
mm,
could. You could have just told me I
mm,
need to go downstairs to get the stuff.
mm,
I said, I see. You see, I didn't even know that I'm so conditioned to
mm,
always look for approval, even in simple things. I just wanted to
right.
go buy breakfast for my kids. But
Mm,
I was afraid that I would inconvenience this friend of mine
mm,
because that friend will obviously have to wait for me for a bit. And then
mm,
I seek permission. You
mm,
see where assertiveness comes in? And therefore, it's all linked actually to what we were talking about even in session 1 and 2,
mm, mm,
right? The
right.
ability to say no and all is linked to the fact that I don't practice self-care, self-respect.
Mm,
Everything is about the other person. But I think practice makes perfect. It's okay. You will slowly get the hang of it as you take little minute steps.
yeah, I think yes, it goes down, like you mentioned, it goes down to boil down to even little things that you are so
Yes,
fearful of creating that inconvenience. It
right.
permeates into every part of your life, that if you're not
Mm,
careful, it's like you're losing yourself, basically not able to express your thoughts, your opinions, your preference.
that's
Yeah.
right.
So it's like, yeah, where is Jucelyn, like where is Lillian? It's
Yeah, that's
disappeared.
why.
Yeah.
That's right. That's why for years I struggled with a sense of lost identity and a
Mm,
lot of self doubt. So you can see, and when my friend said it, I didn't realize that, oh,
mm.
yeah, even in small things like that. So if my friend had said no, you see, my friend didn't even say no. It's like what you were
It's
saying, right? We
right.
assume that the other person, so we went into this justification mode of explaining
Mm.
why I need to get breakfast, and da 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 da. Da. And to my friend, really puzzled, no, like, is that even an issue? And then I caught myself, yeah, so that's that. Yeah, so
Okay.
maybe
What's
we
the
could go
fourth
back.
point? Yeah, what's
The
the
fourth
last
point
point here?
would be, so to recap, the first point is to first define what's your boundary,
Mm,
right? To define, yes. And number two would be to communicate it.
mm,
Nobody's a mind reader. Number three was keep it simple. No need to over justify and explain all the time. And the
mm.
fourth one is to set consequences.
To set
Set
consequences.
consequences. Now,
Mm,
for those of us who are struggling with even defining boundaries and setting boundaries, this is very difficult. I
mm,
struggle with, if the above and this one, to set consequences. You see,
mm,
think about it. What is the point of setting boundaries and then there's no consequences of breaking those boundaries? It's the
mm.
same with kids, We will tell
Yep.
them, okay, if you lie to me, you didn't do your homework, the consequences is no iPad, maybe for 1 week.
Mm,
That's the
mm.
consequences. Now,
Right.
you set it and go, you laminate it, it's all over the place, it looks good. Everybody, we followed step 1, 2, 3, communicated, da da da. When the child breaks it, he
Mm.
still gets his iPad. Now, you just made a mockery of this whole system of setting a
Right.
boundary.
Right. Yeah.
So I realized that to set the consequences is very important. Means you communicate to the other person that, okay, so we understand, we are good, yeah. You hear me, I hear you, that is your boundary, that is my boundary. Now what happens when that boundary is broken?
Make
What
sure
is
you
the
enforce it.
consequences?
Right. You need to enforce it.
Yes, that's right. You enforce it. Otherwise, you know what's gonna happen? I realize
Mm,
that, like I said, you're not helping that person as well. that person, in
Mm,
fact, might get more bold
mm,
because that person realizes that, hey, by breaking the boundary, I got away with it, you know.
mm.
So
And they may
you
not
are
take you
actually,
seriously anymore.
yeah, you're
They
a
may,
joke.
yeah. Mm,
So you actually lose respect in the eyes of that person.
mm,
And let me tell you that if you are often in that position, you lose respect for yourself because you begin to be angry or upset with yourself, like, hey, why am I allowing people to walk over me? Why am I allowing the people to treat me as a joke and not
mm,
take me seriously? Right? So to set consequences, for example, if you're in an abusive relationship, whether emotionally or physically, now you have to set a consequence and say that, you know, if this continues, I am going to, I don't know, I'm going to seek help, or I'm going to walk out, I'm going to, uh, keep my distance for a period to protect myself. There has to be consequences that the person knows that if the rules are broken, this is what you expect. Else,
mm.
like I say, forget about step one, two, three.
Yeah,
It's just a
it's no
mockery
point.
of the
No
whole
point having,
system.
no point having all that. If
That's
you're not going
right.
to
So I
enforce it, then yeah.
Yeah, so I hope it's helpful. It's just 4 simple steps. But like I said, it's not how you start the race, but how you end the race that makes a difference. So you don't touch that finishing line and you ran 20 kilometers, you're still disqualified, right?
Right.
Hmm.
Again, I think, yeah, setting boundaries is really important. Even is to protect. The mindset
It's
here
to
is to
protect.
understand that it is to protect a relationship. It is
That's
to
right.
ensure that both party has that freedom within their boundaries, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Otherwise,
Ac-
because when arguments start happening, when conflicts start arising, wow, you never know what's going to come out from each person's mouth, right? Yeah.
That's right. So on
Mm,
hindsight, I realized that the reverse is true.
mm,
I've always thought that setting boundaries will destroy the relationship. But now I
mm.
realize not setting boundaries actually destroys the relationship because
That's
there's
right.
so many benefits to setting boundaries. I can just list maybe about 5 or 6. The first of which is when you set boundaries, your needs are met,
Mm,
right? Your emotional, your physical needs are met because now you articulate to the other person
mm,
what your needs are. And when your needs are met, it links to the second benefit, which is there's less resentment and anger,
mm,
right? Because you didn't have boundaries. So when people step over you, you go like, yeah, why am I a pushover? Da, 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 da. But nothing is done. So you continue
mm,
doing it. You continue allowing yourself to be overstretched. You are physically tired. You could be financially in tatters. You could be emotionally just really not there in person because
mm,
you're so broken inside.
mm,
So so you actually also, the third point is you feel safe and secure. You feel safe and secure in a relationship that has boundaries.
mm.
Like
Yep.
children, right? They actually need rules. Do you know that?
Mm,
They kind of hate rules, but actually there's chaos in rules and they feel very insecure
mm.
because they
Yeah.
don't know what is expected or what's not expected. And then when they
Yeah.
do something
Right.
wrong, they get yelled at.
Yeah. It's
So
like
they
when
live in
when do I
this.
do what? Is this right or wrong? Is How do I know this is right or this is wrong?
That's right.
or,
That's
or,
why
or
a
this is
good.
permissible or this is not permissible.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So
And
they'll
we
be
are
like
actually.
walking around the house like crossing the landmine.
That's right. So we are actually being unfair to the other person by not setting boundaries in a sense, and to yourself lah. Because then that person is just like, trying to
Trial
maneuver
and
and then
error.
hopefully they are not step on the landmine and then it
Right.
explodes, right?
Yeah.
So there is safety and security in a
Mm,
relationship that actually has
right.
boundaries. Mm. And
Okay.
of course, I think if we time is finite, right? If we learn to say no and create boundaries and say no either to people or relationships that are not healthy, we
Mm,
actually free ourselves, give ourselves more time and resources to find things that spark joy in our lives.
mm, mm,
We begin to find people who are on the same wavelength as us, who
Mm,
encourages, who feels us,
mm,
like I shared last week, right? To be positive people. And then that makes you a better version of yourself.
right,
And then you give to that relationship
right.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think times is up. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Jocelyn, for sharing so much with us from your book. And so do remember to grab a copy of her book. Yeah. So the pre-order link is in the caption, right?
That's right.
And yes, and we are all part of a community, Women of Courage Asia. So this month,
Mm,
once again, we are going to meet up online, right? We're going back to
that's right.
100% online. Yeah, and we have two ladies from the community. They're going to share. One are going to share their expertise, all right, and the other one is going to share their story of courage. But what I hope to hear is I always love the part, the open mic segment, where we get to hear the
Mm,
participants, the rest of you who participate in the meeting to share your story. So do join us on the 20, this is the last Tuesday of the month, is 25th, right? 25th of May. Yep,
that's
25th of
right.
May.
25th.
Yeah.
Mm,
So click on the link to register, right? So you can receive the Zoom link to attend the meeting. All right, that is happening on the 25th of May, right? And yeah, anything else you want to add before we say goodbye and see you next week?
yeah. What I just want to encourage you is to empower yourself and stay safe with boundaries.
Right. Remember those
Right? You can do
boundaries.
it. Yes.
All right. We'll see you again next week.
See
Right.
you
Next
next week.
Tuesday. Right.
Bye.
Bye.